On this episode of Motorsport Recently, we look back at the Indycar doubleheader in Detroit, the IMSA Chevrolet Grand Prix, and NASCAR at Pocono. We're also having a look at the Ford v Ferrari trailer. This is Triple Crown Racing. Let's get into it. Hello everybody and welcome to Motorsport Recently on a spoiler-free episode of Motorsport Recently. So if you haven't seen the Canadian Grand Prix, you should be okay. And this is actually the first time ever we're doing it on a Monday. So it was rescheduled to the Monday, so this is when we're doing it. So I hope you enjoy its temporary new date, which is only for this week. My name is Jack McKenzie and joining me will be Caitlin Penny Commentary. However,
Hello.
Our usual partner in crime, Chris Whitfield, will not be joining us this week, as he went outside and was eaten by a bear. This is due to the fact that he lives in Canada.
Does that mean he's not coming on then?
He's not coming on then. We were then scheduled to have Joshua Franks come on the podcast, but his sat-nav told him to bear right, and that turn unfortunately led him coincidentally to the Canadian wilderness, and he hasn't been seen since.
Does that mean he's not coming on then?
Not coming on then. And then
Shucks.
we were then scheduled to have Noah Boucher come on the podcast, but he's French Canadian, but he lives in America, but he's French Canadian, I think you can guess what's happened at this point. So we did eventually find somebody who's not American, and well, it is American actually. So he's not Canadian,
Jack.
and he hasn't. Yes. And he actually hasn't been eaten by a bear. He participated in the first ever league racing championship I ever participated in. Please welcome GeoDude300.
How's it going, guys?
Good to have
Hey,
you on
Geo.
this. So we are expecting Chris back eventually, but we are waiting for the original bear to finish its bowel movement. So we have GeoDude300 come on. So thank you very much for coming on. And I think without further ado, and if there aren't any bears in the general vicinity, we should get into the news. On this episode of Motorsport... Take that as a yes.
Yes, sorry. Yes! Woohoo! Let's do it! News! Yeah! Sorry. Okay, so since we don't have Chris for the IndyCar and NASCAR stuff, who's going to be taking IndyCar this week?
I'll do IndyCar.
Okay.
Right then, so do we want to switch over to our slide?
It's already there. Just assume that I've done everything one step ahead of you because you can't see it.
Okay, excellent. Now, as promised, this is a spoiler-free episode of Motorsport Recently, so there will be nothing on the Texas 600. America's premier open-wheel racing series certainly does get around. We went from the Brickyard to America's Motor City for a doubleheader on the streets of Belle Isle. Alexander Rossi qualified on the pole for race 1, followed by Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon. Indy 500 winner Simon Pagenaud qualified a disappointing 13th. The race was significantly shortened due to extremely wet conditions. By the time the green flag finally flew, we were only expecting to have an hour and 12 minutes of race time. However, almost immediately, Matthias Lace went for a spin, and Keanu Reeves arrived on the scene. I am, of course, talking about Santino Ferrucci, who dodged yet another bullet with some evasive action. Now, Santino Ferrucci's heroics may actually make him, unironically, become my favourite driver, but whatever the case.
Jack.
Chris is going to hate me when he comes back.
Never mind Chris. Sorry, carry on.
Anyway, Laced would end up with minor damage and bring out the caution. Alexander Rossi would get the jump on the restart and lead the field away. With 51 minutes to go, Marco Andretti would be the first to make the call and pit for slick tires. Marco would spend the next lap sliding around on extremely cold, dry tires and amazingly kept his car out of the wall. The rest of the field would follow suit. Ed Jones would end up in the wall. In the round of pit stops that followed, Will Power's pit crew made a mistake during the stop, and as such, upon leaving the pit lane, the Australian would find himself without a right front tyre. With 30 minutes to go, Scott Dixon ended up in the wall in a very uncharacteristic fashion and took himself out of the race. Would lead the field away with 21 minutes to go and would stay there until the end. Alexander Rossi brought it home second, and Takuma Sato would finish third. Now, any thoughts on race 1 that we should go over?
I unfortunately can't see IndyCar these days because, yeah,
Oh, I just watched the highlights. So I actually recommend going on to Motorsport on NBC, which is a YouTube channel, and they bring out some really, really good race highlights very shortly after it comes out. So I'd recommend just watching those. I mean, they tell you everything.
okay.
You still need to know with that.
I can tell you
GeoDude300
that, sorry, I can tell you that, my friend Xanthio was there, but, anyway. Sorry about that. Yeah, Gio, did you see the race?
I didn't manage to get around to the highlights, but I heard it was a pretty good race. I mean,
I'd say race 1. I'd say race 1 was the more boring of the 2 races, so that's why we'll probably get into race 2 just about now. Race 2 would see Joseph Newgarden qualify on the pole, followed by Alexander Rossi and Zach Veach. The clouds and rain were gone, and it was bright sunny skies for Duel 2. It was carnage right from the start, as there was an enormous pile-up in the first few corners of the race. A chain reaction caused by Felix Rosenquist would see Simon Pagenaud run into a turned Patricio Award due to Tony Kanaan running into the back of Simon Pagenaud. This should see Kanaan drop out of the race. Will Power's Chevy would break down a few laps later, bringing out the caution. He got it going again, but had lost a lot of time. When the race went back to green on lap 7, Scott Dixon would lead the field away. Now, Scott Dixon leading the field away, that will very quickly become a trend. 8 laps later, Spencer Pigot would find himself in the wall after trying to come onto pit road and being rear-ended by Simon Pagenaud. Pagenaud would briefly go Evel Knievel on us all, doing a wheelie with a broken front wing as a result, and Pigot was out of the race. This triggered a round of pit stops, which would see Santino Ferrucci, who definitely isn't unironically my favourite driver now, leading the race. Ferrucci would lead all the way to lap 33 when, upon exiting the pits, James Hinchcliffe, along with Simon Pagenaud and Alexander Rossi, attempted to go 3 wide into turn 3, which is never going to work, by the way. Pagenaud and Hinchcliffe ended up in the wall while Rossi was momentarily turned before setting off his way again. Hinchcliffe actually got moving again with quite a lot of damage. His rear wing was completely bent the wrong way. Newgarden's day, however, was done. Santino Ferrucci pit under caution and lost the lead of the race. With 30 laps to go, and Scott Dixon led the field away once again. The final caution of the day would be brought out by James Hinchcliffe breaking down, and when the race went back to green, Dixon would lead Marcus Ericsson and Will Power away. Of course, this wasn't the last time there would be a race-stopping incident. Damaging his car, Rosenquist would spin in turn 1 and put his car on the wall. This would bring out the red flag with 3 laps to go. The race restarted, and the top 3 would remain the same until the end. Scott Dixon took the checkered flag, Marcus Ericsson would score his first ever IndyCar podium, and Will Power would bring it home third. So that's a fantastic win by Scott Dixon. However, I do want to talk about Marcus Ericsson picking up his first ever IndyCar podium.
Yes, absolutely. It was a fantastic race from Ericsson, and although I didn't see it, I'm really quite proud of Formula One, to be honest, because, you know, it's great to see. What, sorry?
Formula One represents.
Yeah, no, it's great to see a driver coming from Formula One to America, and you know, and doing a great job, which is what we've seen from Alexander Rossi. It's what we've seen from Marcus Ericsson. It's, you know, it's fantastic to see. What does strike me about race 1 is just how many uncharacteristic mistakes there were from so many drivers. For example, you had Sebastian Bourdais, who's a very successful IndyCar and Champ Car driver, just misjudging that gap behind the other car coming into the pits, and doing a very impressive wheelie, if I must say so. Then you had, of course, the incident between the Newgarden, Hinchcliffe, and Rossi. Yeah, I can see exactly why Hinchcliffe was annoyed at that, as he would be, because Newgarden, I think probably distracted by Rossi in his mirrors, just overshot it and looped it around, and yeah, from Joseph New.
Hinchcliffe was on for a really strong day, so that's a shame for him.
Yeah, and Joseph Newgarden's the championship leader, so that was uncharacteristic from him. Sorry, I'll come back to you in a minute, Gio, but I finally want to finish my point by talking about how Felix Rosenqvist, who I always thought was one of the most intelligent and mature drivers in any field. I remember back in 2015 when he was in European F3, he was the only guy that season who wasn't like wiping everyone else out every single day. But yeah, after that contact with the wall, he could clearly tell that he had a damaged car, and he still tried to push it through turn 1. I mean, I don't get how he can misjudge it like that. This is Felix Rosenqvist. That's just so uncharacteristic. Sorry, Gio, your point was?
I was gonna agree with you, Caitlin, on the Formula One being represented, because there's a lot of open wheel drivers that are making moves back and forth going between F2, F1, IndyCar, and the Formula One's definitely being very well represented in IndyCar, with Marcus Ericsson and Fernando Alonso in a way, but
in a way, yeah.
In a way.
But definitely, that's all I gotta say about it. I mean, congrats to Marcus Ericsson making his first ever IndyCar podium, and hopefully Joseph Newgarden can continue to win the championship. Even behind it.
No bias here. Anyway, you'll be happy because the championship points currently look like this. Newgarden is on 316 points. Rossi is on 301. Pagenaud is on 291 points. Dixon is on 264, and Sato is on 255. So it's very close between the top 3 mostly, but the top 5 are still definitely in with a chance. Dixon and Sato a little bit further down, so this could be a very interesting championship. If it could, IndyCar generally is a very interesting championship, so it should be a good year.
Yeah, of course. I absolutely love IndyCar, and well, unfortunately, I can't see the races anymore, like full, which I would love to do. Yeah, I'm still very much enjoying watching the highlights, and IndyCar's great. Fantastic series. I'd say probably one of my favorite.
America's Open Wheel Championship. That's definitely one of the more interesting championship series in the world, and especially definitely here in the USA.
It certainly is. However, we do actually have a news story relating to a news story related to IndyCar. This isn't a race report. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Following the 2 races at Detroit, a rather interesting story broke. Max Chilton announced that he would not be contesting any of the other overrounds in this year's season. He would be replaced by Connor Daly for the rest of for at least Texas Motor Speedway, and we won't spoil that for you. And the question on everyone's mind, of course, is why is this the case? Well, rather unusually, it could actually be down to safety concerns. In his statement, Chilton said this: "Risk management is a central consideration for both Gallagher and myself in how we operate. I'm excited and pleased by the outstanding proactive work done by IndyCar around driver safety and the innovation of the solution developed in partnership with Red Bull Advanced Technologies that has created a new aero screen. The innovative solution will be the most advanced single-seated driver head protection in the world and will be introduced in 2020. this raises some questions. Is safety really a concern for Max Chilton? And if so, is this the reason he's not doing any of the oval rounds? Or is there another reason? And how will his replacement Connor Daly do? And if you've seen the Texas 600, you most already likely know how he's doing, but this is a spoiler-free episode, so no need to let you in on that little secret then.
Yeah. Now hold on a second. So, was that in the same statement as the one where he said he was, not going to do any of the other oval rounds? Because it sounds to me like that's completely unrelated. Unless...
It is.
What's
it?
it?
This was the same statement. This was the same statement.
Yeah, because, these are racing drivers, they know the risks. If he really is being put off by the dangers and not doing the oval races as a result, then I'm afraid it sounds to me like he's in the wrong place, the wrong series. I don't think that's... I mean, surely that's not why he's not doing the ovals. It's probably something to do with... it's probably something financial or something to do with contracts or whatever. But yeah, no, I don't think Chilton is... I don't think Chilton is scared of the safety aspect of it, especially since he's been doing ovals for so long. And again, if that is his reason for not doing that, then why is he in IndyCar?
I mean, it is quite a peculiar situation. I mean, I just think it's interesting that he put so much emphasis on the safety devices in the car in his statement as to why he wasn't going to be doing the ovals. Gio, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I know that the IndyCars are very, very advanced in their safety in terms of the car. Chilton saying that he might not do it because of safety really does bring a question mark, if I had to say something. Because even with Red Bull, they're creating their new innovative technology that will be introduced next season. That just still brings a question mark on why Chilton says it's because of safety. But I have to agree with Penny on might be some other reason behind it.
Didn't necessarily say it was just down to safety. It was just unusual that he just happened to mention the safety devices so much in this statement. He said that he's really happy that his sponsor Gallagher is very understanding of this, and that he'll do anything he can to help with the number 59 Carlin crew. That's some interesting news. I don't know exactly why this has happened. Perhaps that might become more clear in the coming weeks. Oh, and we have... Would you like to know who's just tuned in, by the way?
Go ahead.
Whitfield has just tuned into the podcast.
Chris!
He's in.
Chris!
Hello, Chris.
He's tuning in. I don't know how he's watching. I wonder what it's like watching this from the bear's stomach. I'm not entirely sure how that works.
Must get some good cellular reception.
Hope you're okay in there, Chris, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you again whenever you get pooped out, I expect.
Anyway, should we move on to IMSA?
Yes, let's move on to IMSA.
There was actually another race from Belle Isle, and this was, of course, the Chevrolet. It's the Chevrolet Sports Car Grand Prix of Detroit or something.
Yes.
Something like that. Anyway, it was IMSA in Detroit, so enough said.
Just realised no wait, I did see it, never mind, okay. Do you want me to talk through it since it's pretty much the only race I actually saw out of all of these?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, DPI and GTD were the only classes present in Detroit for round 5 of the IMSA Sports Car Championship, and GTD only in Sprint Cup form. Acura Team Penske started first and second for the 100-minute sprint race, with Juan Pablo Montoya... I wouldn't call 100 minutes a sprint race, let me just find that. It's more like a feature race, but it's not as long as the other ones. Never mind. With Juan Pablo Montoya out-qualifying Helio Castroneves by 0.2 seconds, whilst GTD pole went to Park Place Motorsports Porsche. The race was littered with cautions, the first coming out on lap 1 after a turn 1 incident saw the Scuderia Corsa Ferrari hit the wall and go into retirement. This led to a period of fuel-saving stalemate as the DPI cars tried to save enough fuel to make the race on one stop. This ended when Victor Franzoni clipped a barrier in the Hunkos Racing Cadillac 19 laps in, and all but one DPI car stopped under the caution it caused. Since pitting them would make it impossible to get to the end without needing another stop, three-time Le Mans winning strategist Lena Gade of Mazda Team Yost instructed the 77 to stay out and take track position after running mid-pack for the opening stint. Ricky Taylor, who replaced Castroneves, and the 7 Acura had managed to beat their sister car out of the pits, took the restart in second, but Dane Cameron, in for Montoya, managed to get an excellent restart, vaulting from first to third and retaking both the actual and theoretical lead. The field yet again went into stalemate in terms of positions, and when the DPI contenders pitted with 40 minutes to go, the 77 of Spencer Pigot and Oliver Jarvis plummeted from 2nd to 9th because it needed to take on more fuel. Pipo Derani and the 31 Cadillac emerged from these stops in 4th place, but an excellent run meant that he found his way up to 2nd in a stop-and-start finish to the race, and ended up only 0.8 seconds off Cameron. Behind were a variety of racing incidents which disrupted the race and ended the chances for a couple of cars. The 55 Mazda and the 85 Cadillac made contact in a hairy 3-wide moment out of turn 4, putting the Yost car into the wall. Only a few laps later, the other Mazda ran into trouble, and again after contact with a Cadillac, this time with the 5 Action Express Racing entry. Montoya and Cameron were able to extend their crew's incredible month of May. The third driver in the car is Simon Pagenaud, to make the trio unbeaten for 1 month plus a day, and become the first car in IMSA's top class to take back-to-back wins since the Core Autosport at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and Road America last year. Behind, it was Felipe Nasr and Pipo Derani, and Castroneves Taylor rounding off the podium ahead of a strong run from the JDC Miller Motorsports privateer Cadillac DPI VR, the team once again ending up as the top customer entry. In GTD, a close race long battle saw Jack Hawksworth and Richard Heistand take Aim Vassar-Sullivan's first racing win since they took over the running of the Lexus RCF GT3s after battling hard with the Meyer Shank Racing Acuras and Park Place Motorsport Porsche, among others. Jack, your thoughts?
As they keep getting very close to doing well, and then they stop doing well. I'd say it'd be quite frustrating for Mazda fans. It was a good drive from the Penske Acuras, and Lexus are doing absolutely superb this year.
When it goes wrong for Mazda, it tends to go wrong for both of them at the same point in the race. I noticed that at Daytona, I noticed that here. Like, first we had one of them being dumped in the wall, then we had another one spinning off, and, more issues for that. In terms of the actual incident that shoved I think it was the Tinknell one into the barrier, I don't think it was as clear cut as the commentators said. I think it was very much 50 of one and 50 of the other. However, I noticed that the car on the inside, and I've forgotten who that was, but the car on the inside did turn out, like, directly before the corner, did turn out straight into the side of the Mazda, and I didn't like the look of that. Yeah, I also didn't like the look of the fact that the Mazda, turned in, but then again, it was going to have to at some point. I didn't think the distance, how far the other car had got up alongside it, was as much of an issue as the commentators made it out to be. But yeah, to be honest, I don't really think that anyone was properly to blame for that.
Yeah, dude, do you have any thoughts on this? Or actually, have you seen it?
Not really, no. I don't follow much IMSA stuff. I follow more mainstream American motorsports. But and again, this I'm not gonna go empty, but this IMSA race definitely seemed very interesting. Hearing about it, but the definitely a great drive from the wow, I'm lost in thought. Jesus.
That's okay.
But the
For Team
Mod-
Penske.
definitely the Mazdas definitely seem to go out at the same time, like Caitlin Penny said, and the Cadillacs and the Penske's, they all had pretty good drives, and other than that, can't wait to see what they do the next race.
Who's actually the next race? I need to check. IMSA.
Yes, I really should have checked that. But yeah, whatever
I'm
the.
checking that now.
Okay.
Schedule IMSA. Anyway, yeah. So that was quite a good race, and actually is that 3 wins for the Acura Team Penske car now? Not just the season, but like.
An interesting story about that, actually, I'm not entirely sure, but an interesting story about that is that Penske tweeted a picture of their guys on the podium with the caption, "The winners last year are winners again," despite the fact they didn't win last year. And I don't know why that is or what they were thinking of, but anyway. Yeah.
No, perhaps because they were in the month of May. Maybe that's another win in the month of May. I don't know.
The next race is actually the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen. Thank you, Chris, for that. He also says he has now been pooped out of the bay. He needs a shower to wash it off. Yeah, you do that. In fairness, the 55 got straight punted. Okay, it was a Cadillac. So that's what Chris says there, and that's your view on it, I suppose. It's a shame we don't have you on this show to talk about it, actually, but never mind.
Whatever the case, you never know with Chris. You might unexpectedly drop in. So,
if you're fine with that, then I am.
Do anything to stop me as podcast permission. So on the Discord server. By the way, if you want to join our Discord server, it's in the description below. I think that just about wraps it up for him. Oh, we should wait. Do you want to go over the championship standings?
Do we have the championship standings in the document?
Oh, we don't have the championship standings in the document, but I can get this up now.
Okie dokie. Yeah, you do that because you're going to be quicker on that than me. Wait, no, I've got it. So, the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen is going to be taking place on July the 7th. So, wait, no, wrong. Oh, June the 30th. Sorry, I was looking at the next one after that.
A Canadian has unexpectedly dropped in, just like I thought.
Hey, Chris, welcome back.
You thought I was gone, didn't you?
Nope, not at all. Anyway.
Very few.
So, championship standings, leading the DPI class at the minute are Pipo Derani and Felipe Nasr, followed by Castroneves and Taylor, and then Jordan Taylor. So Ricky Taylor was in the Castroneves one, and then of course you have Jordan Taylor and Renger van der Zande in 3rd place, and the win for the Acura Penske, Cameron and Montoya, puts them up into 4th. In GTD as well, they... Okay, I don't think they counted. Is that because it was only...
It's the first race for the Sprint Cup series.
Oh, okay, so apparently it's the 80s...
Counts for Sprint Cup points only.
Yes, so I'm looking at the standings GT Daytona, which does count Daytona Sebring, Mid-Ohio, and Belle Isle. We were at Belle Isle, right? Yeah, okay. And, yeah, and it's the 86 Maya Shank car at the top, despite the retirement at Belle Isle, followed by the 12 Aim Vassar Sullivan car, then the race-winning 14 Aim Vassar Sullivan car, which is actually on a bit of a streak now. It's won 2 in a row. And then, of course, the podium for the Park Place Motorsports Porsche put that up to 4th in the GTD standings. So that's how it stands as it stands. And we move on to the Glen, which I am very much looking forward to.
And also, it should be noted that the first Acura actually broke an undefeated streak in the current IMSA era. That GM possessed, and unfortunately, and yeah, the thing about the Mazda, yeah, that was the 85 Cadillac. It was one of the yellow, Cadillacs that that straight punted Harry Tinknell out of the race. Sorry, but you can't tell me otherwise. I'm afraid it was pretty clear cut.
Yeah, to
Anyway.
be honest, I'm probably aiming more on your side than on Tinknell's side. I think it wasn't so much of a punt, you know. I don't think the distance was the problem. I think it was the fact that it steered out before the apex of the corner, and I don't really know why to do that. So yeah,
And essentially, it's that old saying, what does Mazda have to do? Like,
yeah.
Faster.
who at Mazda angered the racing gods?
We'll have to work that out, and then they have to be promptly fired. I'm just on the IMSA website right now, and IMSA put out this is on an unrelated note. IMSA put out a tweet that said, "Spoil your old man this Father's Day, 15% off all IMSA 50th anniversary tees, hats, and the IMSA celebrating 50 years book." Now that hat looks quite nice. I feel like I want that hat now. So I went on to check the championship standings, and now I want a hat. Thank you, IMSA.
I want
Nice.
that book. I want the
what?
50th anniversary book.
Yeah, actually, that would be
I
good.
like-
Yeah.
That would
Is
look
that a-
really good on my bookshelf.
Someone get that for
I
me for Christmas.
The 50th anniversary book, but I only have $5 to my name now, as I am now, well, now that I've paid off all of the debt, I am now in full the proud owner of a Fiat 500.
Congrats, Jack.
Yay! Congratulations!
Congrats.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I think we should move on to NASCAR. And GeoDude, would you like to tell us about NASCAR?
Well, from
Pocono. From Pocono.
the,
Because this is a spoiler-free
this is
episode.
Pocono. Kyle Busch took the win at Pocono after Kyle Larson led the first two stages, and Kyle Busch is he's leading. Oh gosh, I'm on the article right now, so sorry about that. But Busch, who has top 200 career wins across all three national series, won for the 55th time in the Cup and matched Hall of Fame driver Rusty Wallace on the list. He said, Busch said in a quote, he said, "Pocono has been a struggle, but it's been a lot better now." And he won for the fourth time this year, excuse me, and the first time in nearly 2 months. So that's what we have so far on the Pocono race.
I also want to talk a little bit about Xfinity and Cole Custer's move on Tyler Reddick. Can I just say,
And
Sorry?
You were gonna say?
oh, did I cut out or something?
Oh
Can I
yeah.
just say, Cole Custer's move on Tyler Reddick during the Xfinity race was absolutely unbelievable. I cut out again for a third time.
No, but I did
No, I
very
heard
much. Yeah, it's okay. But I did very much enjoy the first cutout. You know, can I just say, blank.
I might just do that on purpose. Like, I might just do that and just not say anything.
Someone
That
pull
would be funny.
Quote and someone pull that quote from this podcast and then use it as a sound effect.
Can I just say?
Can I just say?
Right.
So
I don't have anything else to say on NASCAR apart from the fact that the Cup race is pretty boring.
And the and today's race is not happening.
Yeah, apparently. And again, no, I'm not gonna spoil.
Okay.
And they're actually
Chris, I've been hearing a couple of things about Pocono. What are your thoughts on the circuit?
I like it. I like the fact that it's, believe it or not, I actually refer to it as sort of the first road course of the season.
Oh really?
How so?
Because, well, for one thing, you shift here, which is the only oval really that you shift.
Very
You
true.
actually shift twice. And it's yeah, it's a really great it's a really good circuit as far as like it actually requires the skill of a road racer to actually be successful at.
I'd actually say it's a good hash brown, but we won't get into that again.
It is also a good hash brown.
Which isn't a
Great,
mushroom,
now
by
I
the
want
way.
hash. Oh great! Now I want hash browns.
It's gonna become a
Again.
running gag. That's gonna become a running gag.
You
Oh,
walked
dear.
into that, Jack.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of mushroom, right?
Are there anything else that we want to say on NASCAR?
I like the look of those M&Ms.
Okay then.
Moving on.
Well, Kyle Busch does tend to can I just say when I'm watching a Kyle Busch race that I don't have any insomnia.
Okay.
Oh,
Very good.
Chris.
The Lewis Hamilton of NASCAR, rather annoyingly.
Yes, and talking of Lewis Hamilton, let's not talk about Lewis Hamilton. Remember
Let's
that,
not talk about
Chris?
Lewis Hamilton.
Anyway, we move on
Oh,
now.
right then.
Sorry?
Mine, just yeah.
Okay, we move on now, I think, to the new movie trailer, Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay, may I speak of this?
Indeed, you shall speak of this.
Alright, so during the week, by that I mean last week, the motorsport community jumped for joy as the trailer for a very interesting movie came out. This is perhaps the biggest movie event for race fans since Rush was released back in 2013. Ford vs. Ferrari will tell the story of the legendary Ford vs. Ferrari at the rivalry at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It has an all-star cast with Christian Bale playing Ken Miles and Matt Damon playing Carroll Shelby. Remember the 15th of November, because that is when the film is released, leaving race fans wondering where and how they can invest in a time-traveling DeLorean. I'll leave a link to the trailer in the description below, which actually just reminds me I haven't left a link to the trailer in the description below, so I have to add that later. And I do actually have some things that we can incite discussion with. This goes to all of you. First of all, what did you think of the trailer?
I think it's going to be an amazing film. It's Ron Howard that is it Ron Howard that produced this one?
No, it's not. Ron Howard did Rush. This is actually produced by the well, this is actually directed by the guys that did Logan from, I believe, the X-Men series. Yeah, the X-Men series. And they had another film that they directed as well that they mentioned in the trailer, but I can't remember which one that was. So it should be, I'm expecting it to be quite gritty then, if style in Logan is anything to go by.
I think it's going to genuinely be a great. I think it's genuinely going to be a great film.
So
Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
Sorry. So I've seen the trailer as well, and I love the look of the racing scenes. It's rare that you get classic racing scenes that don't look so CG and stuff, and you know, yeah, there are big crashes and things that are obviously done in CG, but only because we know. To be honest, it doesn't look as unrealistic as I expected it to, and you know, it looks as if they have got a load of old cars out of retirement, and it looks as if they've done it as realistically as they possibly can. I love the way Le Mans looks. I love the way it's not clearly another racetrack like Brands Hatch or something just roped in because they're like, oh yeah, you know, modern Le Mans looks too modern. I really like that. I also like the way it's not just about the racing. I love the way that they're giving recognition to Ken Miles, who had a lot more, a much bigger part to play in the Ford story than most people give him credit for. And I like the way it's being taken so professionally as well. I like the way that they've got such well-renowned actors as, you know, Matt Damon doing it. And actually, Dan Gurney is being played by his son Alex Gurney, which is going to be interesting as well.
Hey, I was wondering where he was.
Yeah, I was quite happy about all of that. But yeah, no, it's going to be one to look out for, and I can't wait to see it. And actually, after he's finished speaking about this movie, sorry, I've got another movie to tell you about. But anyway, let's finish talking about this one first.
Yeah, because apparently I saw the trailer for another movie on my just my YouTube page. I haven't actually watched it yet. Is this the one that's like the art of
Racing in the Rain? Yes. Since we've got onto that now, The Art of Racing in the Rain is based on a book, quite a popular book. Can't remember quite who wrote it, but I'll look that up quickly. And it's seen from like the perspective of a dog whose owner is a racing driver. And the movie is going to... I don't know much about the storyline because I haven't read the book, although one of my best friends has done. The trailer looks absolutely phenomenal. I love the way they use modern racing cars as well. They're actually using current IMSA cars. Like,
They filmed it at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Yeah, not just modern IMSA cars, but current ones that are racing this season. I am thrilled about that, and I can't wait for that as well. Let me search up when that one's coming up.
Whilst you do that,
the film actually stars Patrick Dempsey and Milo Ventimiglia from... Milo Ventimiglia, of course, for those that don't know, is from the show This Is Us. And,
Oh, and actually, this film is scheduled to come out on the 9th of August, so much, much earlier. It's going to be Walt Disney Studios' 20th Century Fox. And,
I just wanted to... I have a couple of things. So, we haven't actually asked GeoDude's opinion on the Ford vs Ferrari film.
Sorry, Geo.
You're fine. I think that the Ford vs Ferrari film is gonna be really good because it's gonna show people, because a lot of people, if you're not really that big into motorsports but you really started following it now, a lot of people don't know the Ford vs Ferrari Le Mans story back in the 60s and how Carroll Shelby and all the behind the scenes stuff. So I believe that'll bring a lot of modern movie fans up to date, or not really up to date, but give them a little insight of what happened back then and how Ford and all of that got really popular. So that's what I think about it.
You know what it kind of reminds me of a little bit? It reminds me actually of the kind of film style of, say, Grand Prix or Le Mans.
It does. It looks like an updated version of Grand Prix. That is what it looks like. Set in the same year, too. Set in the same year. Oh my goodness.
And, like, also, let me just say that, I'm with Caitlin on the fact that, there's actually, like, continuity in the, racing scenes, because, like, you figure the last couple of racing movies that weren't Rush, you had Days of Thunder, which had races at Dover by way of Rockingham, Phoenix by way of Daytona, Rockingham that looked like Phoenix, and then you had driven with some of the best with some of the best and realistic racing accidents in IndyCar, in which a champ car goes into a river.
I didn't think that looked realistic at
river.
all. Is that
And then
sarcastic?
Oh, I was being sarcastic.
Oh, good.
Then there was another racing film that you haven't mentioned, and it was an absolute masterpiece. Actually, I think you'll agree. And this was the 2008 Speed Racer movie.
Speed Racer.
Oh god.
Oh god.
Absolutely. No, shush. I will not hear any bad things about the 2008 Speed Racer movie. It was an absolute masterpiece, and enough said about that.
You heard it here first, folks, in Radio Land. Jack McKenzie is obsessed with Is Jack McKenzie now obsessed with Speed Racer?
Sam, and I have a few more discussion questions for you. Do you think this movie will be the next Rush?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very straight.
In fact, there's another similarity with Rush, which is the fact that it's based on a rivalry between two. I say people, like two entities. You've got Ford versus Ferrari. You've got Hunt versus Lauda. I love it, and I would love to see more racing rivalries being, movified. Who would you want to see? So
Movified, I love it.
movified, yeah.
But
So
I've seen there's been a lot of talk about on Instagram and stuff about Rush 2 with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
Oh God, please no, we don't need to stroke any more of Lewis Hamilton's ego. Thank you so much.
that
Moving on.
I do think we are probably going to get a Hamilton and Rosberg movie in the very far future, but I say very far because I don't see it coming. Yeah, I don't see it coming during their careers.
I'd like to see Senna versus
Smith
Prost.
is.
I'd like to see Senna versus Prost. Thank you. That'd be very nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
I know
see-
we've had the Senna documentary. We've had the Senna documentary,
Guys?
I know, but I'd like to see one anyway. Yeah.
Sorry. So Senna versus Prost, obviously that'd be great, but I think that's a bit too it's very expected. I would love to see I'd love to see a movie about the 1982 season. And yeah, it wouldn't be about two specific drivers in particular, but there were so many factors in the 1982 season, and there were so many, highs and lows, and, with the Ferrari drivers being injured, Villeneuve being killed, Keke
It's a
Rosberg
documentary.
coming through to win. But I think it would make a really, really good movie.
I do have one. Well, I think we've already covered the whole significance of its history in racing, or whatever. But there is one more discussion question that I do want to touch on. It is, this could actually be an issue. Do you think they'll get around the problem that Matt Damon looks nothing like Carroll Shelby?
Let me
do in
search
every
up.
other movie. They really do in every other movie. Like you can see a lot of the would you consider this a biopic? That'd be another question. Would it be a biopic? 'Cause then I'll get into the-
Not necessarily.
Because like you see in a lot of these biographical movies that they use actors that don't look like it, but it still tells the same story in the same significance. Like, I mean, that's the way I look at it. It doesn't matter. Like the actor, like they can have a little bit of similarities. They don't have to look exactly like him, but he can. But if they tell the same story in the same significant way, and it shows the same meaning, it doesn't really matter because then the movie it's still going to be a good movie.
Of course, yeah. And the thing is, when someone says think of Carroll Shelby, I don't think about his face. In fact, if you ask me to think about what he actually looked like, my mind would go blank. I think about his cars. I recognize him when I see him, admittedly, but I can't. That's not what I think about. When I watched the trailer, I still saw Shelby because I saw Shelbys and I saw Fords, and that was, yeah. I suppose it does just tell the same story.
I would actually say though that Christian Bale in this movie does look a lot like Ken Miles, though.
I wouldn't know
Oh,
because
I agree.
I wouldn't know because I don't know what Ken Miles looks like.
I would agree.
Right. I think we should move on from that because we are moving on to one of our most beloved segments. This is, of course, one where we follow our favourite Spaniard. It's now time for...
Oh, Spaniard, I haven't got that jingle ready. Sorry. I have the miscellaneous stories and points for... Okay, here we go. Eventually, sorry.
He's got that sauce! With a triple crown! St. James, baby! to watch!
Really sorry that took too long, but it's here now. I also realised I used the traditional jingle and we had a special one prepared, but never mind.
We'll do that one in another. We'll do that one in another episode.
Yeah.
So
That was a mega mess up. Really sorry, guys.
And I'm actually going to get off for the until for a little while. And I'll see you all in Radioland shortly.
tell me
Okay.
there's another bear in your house.
There is.
Oh, not another
Oh,
one.
God. Okay, go.
Yeah.
Don't get eaten this time. All right.
Okay. See.
Yeah, I gotta deal with those bears, those pesky bears.
Yeah. Get
Okay.
some bear spray or something. See you, Chris.
Yes. Bye for now.
Okay. Right. Okay. Fernando Alonso does certainly get up to a lot. However, you know it's a slow news week in racing when the only interesting news relating to Spain's best racing driver of all time in the world ever is what he won't be doing in 2020. This week, the Spaniard ruled out a full-time IndyCar drive. This means that he doesn't have a drive in 2020 at all. So, what will he be doing then? Any thoughts at all? Retirement, excellent. Well, I still think he wants to win the Indianapolis 500. I don't think he's going to stop until he does that, though.
So I think he's going to find a seat for the Indy 500, whether that's an entry with McLaren or whether that's an entry with someone else. I don't know. McLaren, if they are entering, will be hoping to get on with someone better than Carlin. With all due respect to Carlin. If not, I think Fernando is going to try to find a seat better than Carlin himself. Not entirely sure where that might be. Aside from that, in terms of actually what he's going to be doing for the majority of the year, I don't think we'll be seeing him in anything full-time because he won't want to lock himself in with anything. I reckon we'll be seeing him doing various one-off events. Possibly, he might try his hand at the Bathurst 1000. He might try his hand at...
Ooh, I'd like that.
That would be nice, yeah.
It'd be very nice.
But ultimately, I think the focus will again be on Indy.
That begs the question then. Is Nando a Ford or Holden guy?
Ooh.
That's a very important question. That is, for Australians, that is a very, very important question that needs to be answered.
Alright, let me... I'm going to look back through Fernando's racing career and see if there's... Has he got... I think he's more likely to have had links with Ford than Holden.
I would
But...
say the same thing.
Well, okay, other than Formula Ford. Because
You know what?
honest, everyone on Earth did Formula Ford.
Hey Jack, is
Well,
Nissan
yes.
is Nissan still in supercars?
It is, but they're rubbish, though.
Still, he has driven a Nissan in the past. He raced in the Euro Open by Nissan back in the 90s.
Okay,
He won that.
feel like he wouldn't drive for Nissan or Ford necessarily just based on a feeder series, though. Let's be honest, though. I mean,
Yeah, but you never know.
If he wants a realistic chance at winning, as good as Nissan are, they are not going to win the Bathurst 1000, even with Fernando Alonso behind the wheel. So it would either be a Ford or a Holden. And for Australians, if he does do the Bathurst 1000, it is very important to know whether Fernando Alonso is a Ford or Ferrari person. Well, not Ford or Ferrari person. Well, he was a Ferrari person, but a Holden person.
Holden,
Many
yeah.
rivalries.
A
How
Ford
have
or
Ford
Ferrari.
involved so many rivalries?
Yeah, Ford have had rivalries with everyone. But in terms of Fernando, I think he's probably more likely to be a Ford guy because he spent so much time in America, and yeah, he would never have really come across Holdens before. So I think he's more likely to be a Ford guy.
Holden just kind of is GM, though. I mean, it's just GM.
Is it?
But if you
Holden's GM.
Okay, Holden then. Got it. Holden. Sorry. Geo?
I was about to say, but if you think about it, Holdens are just Australian Fords.
They're not. They're Australian Chevys.
Or that. But
Have Fords here.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Alonso's not a Chevy guy because he was locked into Honda and stayed at Honda for Indy. So
Honda doesn't like him anymore, and he raced a Chevy at Indy.
yeah, very. Wait, what? Oh, did he?
McLaren was a Chevy. Yes, it was.
Oh, of course it was. Duh. Yeah. Okay.
But Honda don't like him anymore.
Well, it's obviously going to be a Holden then. Sorry.
Well, fantastic. Not obviously, but possibly likely.
I had no idea that. Yeah, I had no idea that Holden was GM. That's interesting.
GM. So if you look at the last generation Holden Commodore and then compare that to the Chevy SS, you'll see that they are exactly the same car. And then also the current well, actually the Chevy rebadged the Holden. So
Yeah, basically.
and if you look at the current Commodore, which is the ZB, that car is actually a rebadged Buick and a rebadged Opel. Not mistaken.
You know what? I've just discovered a driver who I've never heard of before, who could have been a lost talent. I was looking at the Euro, what's it called? Euro Open by Nissan, the series that Alonso won for Nissan, of course, in 1999. He did win the championship, but only on drop points because another driver actually scored more points than Fernando Alonso, and that was a Portuguese driver called Manuel João, who apparently went on to do pretty much nothing after that. Won Spanish GT in 2010 and 2011, but who's ever heard of Spanish GT? I wonder
Spanish GT.
if he'd had the funding to get through to the higher series, could he have been a proper Alonso rival? Maybe.
That would be interesting. Spanish GT. I'm gonna look up Spanish GT right now. Spanish GT Championship. Where did they even race? I'm trying to.
Spanish
Oh,
GT.
it folded in 2013.
Yes.
So let's see where did they
It doesn't say.
race? What's the name of the race?
Nine-
Spain and Portugal. So it's actually more of the Spanish/Portuguese GT Championship, but whatever the case, and actually formed the basis for the GT Open, which does.
Yeah. I've been to see that in 2016. Last champions of Spanish GT, Isaac Titumblou and Dimitris Deverikos. I've heard of Titumblou, but not Deverikos. And the gentleman champion was Alexander Talkanitsa Senior. Jolly good.
Right. So pretty much that's left us with well, after that, that's left us with pretty much no clue at all about what Fernando Alonso will be doing next year, other than the Indianapolis 500, and that if he does come to Australia, crucial word there being if, he'd most likely pick a Holden. And I think on that note, we should probably finish off Nando Watch. Anything else
Yes.
that's happened?
I don't think so, but we do luckily have the jingle for the next segment.
It's time for.
I clicked on the Nando Watch it again.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Right,
here it
do
comes.
Nando Watch
Here it comes.
again.
Miscellaneous stories and points that we missed, and therefore recovering OTM. There we go. Sorry.
Right. Okay. So it was it was quite a slow week in racing, to be perfectly honest. So it's not a particularly long miscellaneous stories and points that we missed, and therefore covering now TM Bing. But we do actually have some interesting stories. Now, the first one. Now, GeoDude is somebody who does a lot of Xbox racing like me. This will be quite interesting. There have been some night lighting upgrades for F1 2019. So if you look at F1 2018, it just kind of looks like, oh, it's dark. But if you look at the laps from Bahrain and Singapore now, it looks pretty much exactly like real life.
Sorry.
That will definitely be interesting.
So,
What version?
on-board laps from Bahrain
Ah,
and from Singapore,
right.
you can see that there's kind of like a haze, a bit like almost like a haze I'm not sure if that's like light pollution or something, but you know what I mean by that, right? Please say you do.
Yes.
Okay, so
it'll definitely help out with the immersion factor, which is what F1 has been. The F1 and co-ambassadors games have been looking for the last couple of years. I mean, F1 2018 wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong, but F1 2019 is going to be really, really good in terms of immersion.
And also, it's just we're gonna have Formula 2 in the F1 2019 game as well as some more classic cars and some Senna, one of the Senna and one of the Prost cars, which would be really good as well. So before in F1 2018, if you were racing on Bahrain or Singapore, it was just dark. Like the sky was just dark. That was the only way you could have told that it was night. It wasn't really anything special, but this looks a lot more realistic, which is quite good. Realism is good with the new F1 games and stuff.
Yes,
Caitlin, oh yeah,
go ahead.
What was your point?
Oh, I was about to say, for all you VR headset users, that help find F1 2019.
Well, does F1 2019 come with VR? Well, are you able to use it with VR?
Surely.
Yeah, okay. It's mainly a console game though. Fanatec package. Okay, well, okay, that would make sense then.
Yeah, you see, like, Codemasters F1 games, they look great, but they handle rubbishly. I expect it's going to be...
Handling.
Sorry?
The handling's pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, there are all sorts of weird glitches and stuff. I'm not sure if that's the same in F1 2019. I haven't driven it or seen much about it at all, because it's barely, hasn't come out yet, has it? So...
okay,
like...
in terms of glitches, like... that if you look at games like F1 2013, F1 2012, they were riddled with glitches and stuff. But F1 2018, like there aren't too many. Glitches are harder to come by.
I've seen. There's a streamer I watch. He comes across them like every week, and it's not necessarily glitches, but just things that are programmed very badly, including AIs and just really, really bad things about the game, and all of these things really put me off Codemasters games. So, yeah, we get it. Like, Codemasters is great at making games look great. I just want the game to actually be great for once, and I hope they pulled that off.
Well, okay, in terms of the handling, so you mentioned the handling before. I discovered that... I didn't really like the... Actually, now I think about it, I didn't really like the handling on F1 2018, but then once you actually figure out the handling, it is actually quite fun, and you have to give it credit for that, actually.
Yes.
When I tried to drive F1 2014 on my Xbox 360...
Oh no, don't worry about F1 2014, that was ages ago.
I know, but like, I haven't actually driven any more recent ones. When I tried to drive F1 2014 on my Xbox, the handling was so bad that it actually made me feel sick. And my brother really liked it for some reason, but no, it was one of the worst games I've ever driven.
F1 2014 was actually pretty bad. Like, you cannot compare F1 2014 to even F1 2015.
Okay.
Like, they've made massive improvements since F1 2014. F1 2014 wasn't very good. You don't have to worry about that. Anyway, before we get on to it, actually, yeah, GeoDude, what you gonna say?
I was about to say, you definitely got to give credit where credit is due to Codemasters for definitely improving their games over the last couple of years. Even though they've definitely had their ups and downs.
I would
Anyway,
know.
To another news story this time from real Formula One. Caitlin, would you like to tell us about what's happened in Formula One?
What, today, or I'm joking. Okay.
No, spoiler free, thank you.
I know, I'm joking. So, there have been talks of a $175 million cost cap for Formula One, which is something that people have been talking about for absolutely years. So basically, how this is going to work is, effectively, teams will only be able to use $175 million to produce and run their cars over the course of a year. This is fantastic, as it will stop the top teams from running away. Potentially, that's the theory behind it anyway. Did I say 2020? I meant 2021. Anyway, whatever the case. Um, the theory behind it, of course, is that it will stop the teams with the highest budget, Mercedes and Ferrari, from running away. I don't think it's going to work entirely like that, especially at first, because they're still going to have the best engineers and the best drivers and the best, just the best people. But still, this definitely should make the field closer, and I am really, really glad about that. And yes, I don't think F1 is in the dire state that people say it's in. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people say it is. I don't get why people are complaining so much. We've had a dodgy start to the year, admittedly, but we have got that at various points throughout history. But then again, the fans are who F1 listens to, and I think as a result, Formula 1 is in danger at the minute, and this cost cap came at exactly the right time. And, well,
I have just found a loophole though. So
oh, there are many loopholes. I was going to move on to that. Sorry?
You just said that $175 million a year, right? In 1 year, so you can use that.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Started working on the car the year before.
Well, it would still fall under the same cost cap.
Would it though? I mean, if they say you can only use $175 million in this year, however,
well, then they'd have to underdevelop the previous year's car.
Okay, think about it, right? If a team like I don't know, we'll use Williams as an example because they probably will be doing rubbish, right? Okay, if Williams, okay, credit where credit is due to Williams, but anyway, so say Williams are doing not very good at the midpoint of the season, right? And they think, okay, we're doing a bit rubbish this year. How about we just start working on next year's car? They can spend, theoretically, all the money they want, not have to worry about the $175 million cost cap, which I'm assuming only applies to one season.
Yes, they
So
can.
if you're developing the car outside of a season, then surely...
Jack, they can do that, and what would that do? It would make the grid closer, it would flip it on its head. That's exactly what we want.
Well, but the thing is though, if you're developing the car outside of the $175 million cost cap, then that means teams like Mercedes could still develop their car with all of their money and all their resources and not have to worry about the $175 million cost cap until the season where they actually race that car. Now, that may have made sense in my head, but not have made sense in actual...
It's not going to work like that. I expect there are going to be more, there are going to be complicated restrictions, and I'm not sure that it's going to be like... Sorry. I'm not sure it's going to be technically like $175 million per calendar year. Whatever the case, yeah, theoretically they could absolutely do that, but then they'd have to underdevelop the previous year's car. And what you end up with there is a cycle of teams. You end up with the order flipping itself on its head every year. That's exactly what we want. So I don't really see the problem with that. That's the whole point of it.
Okay, then.
There
are... Do you have any thoughts on this?
Before we move on, there are loopholes though, and one of the reasons I didn't know if an F1 cost cap was ever going to be included is the fact that it is theoretically quite easy to get around. It's very difficult for the FIA, to monitor exactly how much money you're using, and it's very difficult to actually keep track of it all, and probably quite easy to get around. For example, how can you say that... Like, for example, if you had one specific person from within a team spending a load of money on their own on something, if that makes sense, would that count as...
exactly what I was
thinking. Would that count as part of the team? Or, what happens if... Jack? Sorry. What happens... For example, how would you know in some cases? I think it's going to be very, very easy to cheat, and I just hope that the FIA does it in an intelligent way.
What I was thinking then is that maybe teams could make front companies, and then they could say that this is a separate company, but they've just decided that they want to build an F1 car for the fun of it, and then suddenly teams start. A certain team could have a car that looks exactly like the car that this front company made, but there's nothing to stop stuff like that from happening. I hope
they'd see through that.
No, but surely if it's technically not the team spending that money, is there anything they can do about it? And if this company isn't participating in Formula One, then there's, again, nothing they could really do about that.
Well, whatever the case... Sorry? Yeah?
The one thing I have to say about the cost cap is, like, I heard about something that, like, the more you win, the more fuel success. So, like, Mercedes, the more they win, basically. So, like, all their sponsors and stuff give them so much money. If you give them the $175 million cost cap, they're already such a big name that the supplies they have to get, like the engine supplier, the tire supplier, all that kind of stuff, they can get it at a cheaper rate than people like Williams and the lower backmarker teams because of how much success they've had.
Yes. And that's what I was...
That's another thing.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about earlier with the way that, you know, the top engineers and the top designers and the top drivers will always want to work for the top teams, and yeah, you know, that's what's gonna happen, but that's going to make it even more special when a well, I don't know about even more special when a lower team does well, but it means we're going to get more shock results, and I really like the idea of that, because if you think about it, the reason that people say F1's more spread out than it's ever been, which is a complete lie, by the way, it absolutely isn't if you look at the stats, it's actually closer than it's ever been before. But the reason people say that it's more spread out than it's ever been before is because we don't get shock results anymore. We don't get, you know, your Pastor Maldonados. We don't get your, you know, your Giancarlo Fisichella's. You don't get people like that coming through and winning races or scoring podiums anymore. And that is because of the stranglehold that the top teams have over the sport at the minute. With this cost cap, I predict far more shock results. You know, I predict podiums for Williams again. I predict McLaren being right back up there. And yeah, you know, maybe Mercedes and Ferrari will still be the top names in the sport, and maybe they'll still win the majority of the races. But what we really want is that excitement of, you know, a shock result. And that's exactly what I think this is going to produce again.
We could probably get hooked on this forever, but we must move on. There's some news from the Le Mans Esports Series, and that SMP Racing will actually participate in the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. WEC teams participating in the Esports Series.
Okay. Jolly good.
That's excellent.
That's a pretty big jump right there, if you think about it.
Anyway, now, we actually also have some NASCAR news, which, GeoDude, I think you might be able to talk about this. Brian France will actually plead guilty to the DUI. He's been sentenced to 100 hours of community service, as well as a mandatory completion of an alcohol education course.
That is not the greatest thing that a former NASCAR CEO could ever hear. Because that definitely puts a black flag on the sport. Because his name is tied to NASCAR very heavily. Because his dad and his grandfather both ran it, and then him now getting a DUI, it's definitely not a great thing for the NASCAR name and the France name in general. So,
would you remind us again what actually happened during the week?
Well, would you mind to elaborate on that a little bit? Because the DUI?
Yeah, so from memory, Brian France was involved in a car accident.
Yes, he was. Yes, he. Hold on. he was arrested after a DUI because he had oxycodone, and then he got arrested, and he was also in trying his he was arrested for a DUI, and because even though he was sentenced to 100 hours community service, yada yada, we've already went through that stuff, but he was arrested for rolling through a stop sign and have alcohol content twice the legal limit and oxycodone pills in his possession. But that was definitely not the best thing for him in terms of his reputation.
No, it's not. Now this is an interesting story from the world of IndyCar. Oh, and we have a Canadian.
The Canadian is back.
He's back.
Wow.
Damn bear problem. You should really get that. The council should really look at that.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Okay, we were just about to move
Get
on to it.
in the hole.
Well, we were just about to talk about an IndyCar story that's come on now. Who actually typed this story?
The IndyCar one. IndyCar CEO confirms discussions with Richmond in case negotiations with Pocono fails. I'm not sure who wrote
Richmond,
that, but yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts on that? Confirms discussion with Richmond in case negotiation with Pocono fails.
Richmond actually wasn't a bad track for IndyCar. Like, I think personally it needs I think IndyCar needs more short ovals on its schedule. Like,
Yeah, the races in the past few years at Gateway have been really, really good.
Well,
it would actually be the first IndyCar race I think at Richmond since the 2008 season, I think.
So what negotiations are they talking about with the hash brown track?
Keeping it on the schedule.
Right. Okay. I didn't realize there was actually any danger of that.
that's what I meant earlier when I said that to you, Chris. When I asked about Pocono, because I thought that you'd written that headline, and I didn't know that.
No, that wasn't me.
Well, it wasn't me
Hey, didn't
either.
write-
So
It wasn't me either.
who wrote that?
It might have been Finnick Arrow. I might have to check.
We've had a
the edits on
we've
the
had a
documents.
ghostwriter.
Donde
Okay,
esta
let me check-
ghostwriter?
Let me see like the history of who's edited what. So let me try and work out when this was. What's the last edit that was made? Okay, that's not that. Okay, when was the last
Anyway,
thing?
Awesome. That's
So you guys talk about that while I try and get to the bottom of this.
so I don't know much about those tracks. You see, I watched IndyCar last year. I didn't think Gateway was my favorite track, although I loved Texas. Texas was a great race.
Texas is fantastic.
Yeah. Except, Texas is a longer track than Gateway, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it's much longer than Gateway.
Yeah.
yeah. Gateway's a mile and a third. Texas is a mile and a half.
Got it.
Wait, I've just worked out that it was actually Finnick Arrow on Instagram who wrote the IndyCar Richmond Pocono hash brown article. Well, story. And we actually haven't plugged him in this episode either. So he does all the graphics for Motorsport recently. He does all the posters that you see on screen, and the link to his Instagram account is in the description below. And he actually has a Redbubble page. So if you'd like to buy some t-shirts or a phone case, then, or if you want your own custom design, you can go check him out as well. I've actually been thinking about asking him to do a TCR t-shirt, so I might do that.
Anyway, our final article of the day is one that I'm very happy about, which is a new organisation that's recently been set up called Racing Pride, which is it's very, what's the word? It's the right kind of year for it. It's relevant, that's the word.
And
Because
progressive.
And progressive, yeah, because of course it is Pride Month. Racing Pride is an innovative movement developed in collaboration with Stonewall and launched in June 2019 to positively promote LGBTQ+ inclusivity within the motorsport industry and amongst its technical and commercial partners. And that's their statement from their website. They also say they intend to unite motorsport as a whole and bring about significant and lasting change for the LGBTQ+ community. So that's fantastic. They've also released they've also announced a couple of partners. They're actually partnered with Team Parker Racing, Talk Motorsport, 750 Motor Club, and also Stax Racing, which is a sim racing team. Isn't partnered with them, but will be running a special livery with basically with permission from Racing Pride. And they've also announced a couple of driver representatives, including Sarah Moore and Charlie Martin. And I've also emailed them to offer my services, so I'll see if I get anything back as in relation to that.
How is that going to work then? How's that work?
I'm not entirely sure, but their thought is in the right place. You know, that their head's in the right place.
It's basically to promote exclusivity among the LGBTQ community.
You mean inclusivity?
Inclusivity, rather,
Yeah.
not exclusivity. We're not the W series.
Oh, Chris, that's actually quite harsh, seeing as Sarah Moore, one of their representatives, does race in the W series.
Is in the W series.
But anyway,
It's not related. Anyway, so okay.
My apologies.
We'll see how that story.
Yeah, I think it's honestly I think it's very progressive. And I support it as an LGBTQ member myself. Still waiting on my fruit basket though.
me too. And if I'd known about this earlier, if I'd known about this earlier, I would definitely have gone to the British GT round this weekend. I just didn't know about it on time. But I would love to have gone and met the guys. But like, guys and girls.
I've been out now for 7 years as bisexual, but I'm still waiting for my fruit basket.
Your fruit? I didn't get it.
I'm still waiting for my complimentary welcoming fruit basket.
I still don't get it, but
I
you
feel
can have
like
a fruit
that's
basket if I ever
like
meet you.
I feel like that's a joke that we don't get. But anyway, regardless, there aren't any other points that we want to cover, are there?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. But anyway, I am.
It's just good to be home, and
Hey, Chris.
I gotta get rid of those bears. Yes.
I've been out as trans since December, and I still can't turn into a robot. Car.
We can.
Sorry,
well,
that
the
went.
problem is we're still
wrong.
working on that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Get back to me when
We're
I
still
can.
working on our.
When I can
We're
do
still
that.
working on that. It's a.
Anyway.
Our first test subject. Our first test subject should be
Good luck to them.
Yes.
Anyway, Jack, that's it from the news. So, would you like to sign us off?
Right, thank you very much for tuning in to Motorsport recently. My name is Jack McKenzie, and joining me on the mic today has been Caitlin Penny commentary, the wonderful Chris Whitfield, and the great George Chewins, or GeoDude, depending on however you want to be referred to as. So I have adjectives for everybody now. Thank you to SRA Smoking Puppy for doing the IMSA article you heard today. Thank you to @FinnickArrow on Instagram for doing all of our graphics. Thank you very much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.